This is Robert Margolacci, the Mindshare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine, and welcome to This Week in Canadian EdTech, Mindshare TV. Honored to have joined me for a Mindshare Learning Moment, Dwayne Matthews, the futurist, I'm calling him, on preparing for back to school, professional learning, and harnessing EdTech tools and AI for back to school and trends we're going to talk about, and we're going to figure out what Dwayne's been up to over the last couple of months and how he prepares for back to school. Thank you for joining me, Dwayne.
Thank you very much for having me, Robert. It's always a pleasure.
A little bit about Dwayne. He's a strategic partnerships expert, innovation evangelist, future of education strategist, and X Prize advisor. He's a keynoter. He was just signed on with an agency that I'm sure he'll tell us about. And he has a partnership with the OVS, the Ontario Virtual Schools. He does strategic work for them, among others. And he's a great friend of Mindshare. So great to have you on our show this afternoon. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to check in and how have you been? What's on your mind these days when it comes to innovation and envisioning what's in store for back to school?
So, thanks a bunch again, Robert, for having me. Gosh, there's so much on my mind as it relates to innovation and back to school. I think the biggest topic of conversation is AI in education, the role that it will play moving forward into the future. And I had the opportunity maybe about a week and a half ago to speak to a number of high school students and first and second year university students around AI. And one of the things that struck me was the fact that they are an order of magnitude ahead of most educators that I've spoken to. Um, it seemed like a really natural extension for them. Like, nobody was like, wow, that's amazing. It was just sort of like, okay, students had 10 to 12 different AI applications that they would use for a number of different things. I thought that was pretty interesting, and how seamless it was for them, and in some of the surprising ways that they use it. One of the things that was really surprising was a lot of students were not using it for essay writing. They were using it for extension and creativity and thinking about things that they could do um, beyond what they already do in school. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And that has definitely been a place where I've put a lot of attention this summer.
And congratulations. Tell us about you were recently signed on by an agency. You're a keynoter. You spend a lot of time on national television. You've been on City TV, the Maryland Dennis Show. Is that over yet, or is your show done?
So the Marilyn Dennis show has concluded. It's come to an end, and
Okay.
she's moved on to do a number of different things.
She does radio though.
She's radio. She's a podcast, and probably has.
Will she have you on her radio show?
I hope so. I hope so. I was a friend of the show, so hopefully, if they think that there's a spot for me, Marilyn, if you're out there listening, I'd love to be on your show again.
What was the last show? What did you focus on your last show?
So the last one was really around AI in education as well. We
Okay.
were we were looking at, this is when it was just emerging. What were some of the opportunities and what were some of the risks? Some of the bigger existential risks around AI, and so that was the last time I was on there. And since then, a lot has changed in terms of speaking agency. Yes, no, I was fortunate enough to be signed on with Speaker Spotlight, and so Speaker Spotlight may be the largest and most active speaker bureau or agency
Are
in the
they
world.
international?
Yeah, they're international. They're one of the largest, and one of the most productive and proactive groups. And what's interesting about them is, people approach them to be a part of the bureau, and they only choose about 1%. So it was quite a privilege and honor for me, to be approached, and somebody referred me, and then to sort of be selected to be on that roster. People like Chris Hadfield and um,
Wow,
Masai Ujiri, a lot of people much
big
higher than
names.
my punching
Well,
weight class. So that's great.
well, what's interesting is I've seen you evolve your um, thought leadership over time, and you've honed your skills. And it is a skill. Public speaking is an immense skill, and storytelling, right, is the rage today. So you're on point, and it doesn't come without hard work. You've really made a concerted effort. You put yourself out there, and we all know that public speaking is one of the top three most feared things in people's lives, believe it or not. you know
Yeah, no, it's funny. I can remember having teachers as far back as me being a young boy saying, Twin, you're talking way too much in class. I got into a lot of trouble for talking class in
that's funny. I
school.
had the same problem, so there you go. Took me
Yeah,
five.
yeah. And but I'm fortunate enough that I come from a storytelling culture.
Right.
So, the sort of spaces that I occupied in Trinidad and Tobago, people will tell you a 20-minute story on a mango falling off a tree and make it sound really interesting. And so I've been raised around a lot of that. I spent a lot of time with like my stepfather and my mother's friends, and it would just be me sitting down listening to each one of them tell their stories and how they make them compelling, and how they bring good points. I have a lot of educators in the family as well, and so I've sort of taken all those things, and it took a lot of courage to drill down and say, hey, I'm actually going to pay a lot of attention to this. And I enjoy, I'm you said that a lot of people are afraid to be a public speaker and to be on a stage, and the bigger the crowd that's there for a stage, the more comfortable I am. I thoroughly enjoy the interaction, with the crowds and stuff like that. If anybody's seen me speak, they know that
That's
I'm
awesome.
generally very
Well,
happy
kudos to you for that.
in that space.
And
Yeah.
it's a good segue to, you know, talking about how teachers can prepare for back to school and thinking about in, the level of engagement in kids, because the role of the teacher, the role of the professor is changing dramatically. My faculty hockey guys at York, that I play hockey with on Fridays, say it's hard to get students to come to class. They don't want to come to class. It's, they this, remote work and learning thing has really uh, challenged the whole role of the teacher, and the notion of storytelling and being interesting at the front of the class, and not just throwing stats and facts and directing more of a sage on the stage, and trying to get them interested in the story. It's about the story of learning, and talk to me about that aspect of it.
So I think one of the biggest challenges is that we have certain aspects of our society that are changing. And if I can use an analogy, one would be, once upon a time, every Thursday, I would sort of lock in at 8 o'clock to look at whatever the main show was on TV. And I would have to wait till the following Thursday at 8 o'clock to do that. And, or I might look at a movie, and in that movie, there might be 10, 20 commercials every 5 minutes in between my movie, but I would sit down and I was subjected to that. Now, you know, my daughter and my son, they look at their shows only through an iPad, and it's on demand. They look at it when they want, when they're interested. They rewind certain parts, they go forward with certain parts. And so school is one of the last places where you have that old model of synchronous at this specific time, at this specific place, that you're going to consume this information regardless of whether you're mentally ready or not. And students today are just not growing up in that environment. If my math class is every day at 11 and I'm not ready to go until 12:30, um, that's really difficult to do when everybody's sort of coming in at one time at one place. And so the challenge of education moving forward is going to be to find the right mix between what's synchronous, what's asynchronous, what's intentional socialization, and what doesn't have to be in the class. And we see that playing out now. And it's, it's proving to be very, very difficult. But like in any business or in any industry, the market speaks loudly. And so education, the actual market, the you know the students are speaking really loudly about what they want and where. And so it's going to be the tough job of education moving forward to make those adjustments for this on-demand type of society that we live in. And that's a tricky business to get right.
And fascinating. And and throw in AI in the equation, and it becomes a little more complex, but there's opportunities. So let's talk about AI from an opportunity standpoint for teachers to leverage and helping support their students. And it also, I presented at ERDI US on the future of AI in education. And one of the things they talked about, to end on a positive note, was the whole career pathways opportunity around, becoming a prompt engineer, and you can make up to $300,000 a year if you're a really good one. So, talk to me about where you see it going and some ideas and opportunities to leverage certain products, etc.
Sure. So I think, I mean, there are a couple of things. So I'll go with the prompt engineering first. Prompt engineering, super exciting. It's a brand new field that's opened up probably last November or December was the first time that anybody used the term. And, I'm not a betting person, but if I was going to make a bet, I would say that prompt engineering has maybe 60 months before it becomes an obsolete field. So
Before it becomes an AI bot that is a prompt engineer.
before it becomes completely obsolete. But in the meantime, there are a lot of people and students that could get engaged into that field right now. One of the things that my son and I are working on in August is he's going to be taking a number of prompt engineering courses, and the reason being is that he was saying, "Hey, do I go work at X fast food place?" And I said, "Well, you do the math and then figure it out." I go, "But if you can get yourself a remote prompt engineering role or consultancy in grade 10, you could probably make all the money that you're going to need for university and a down payment before grade 11." And that's a profound, like, he can do that while he's still in class. That's a profound opportunity that just did not exist for you and I, when we were growing up. And so how does he take advantage of that and prepare, but also know that by the time he gets to maybe first or second year university, that whole career could be gone. So he has to maximize the opportunity now and build in a high level of agility to be able to respond to what comes next. Now, in terms of the opportunities for AI in schools, I think there are a few key opportunities. Insight, just being able to have insight and deliver just-in-time feedback to students. There's nothing like it. We know in the literature that just-in-time feedback is critical and important. We know that we're unable to do it at scale with an AI tool. That now becomes very, very possible. There are a couple of pilot projects that I'm doing with a company called Literatu that has a product called Scribo AI. And able to do just-in-time feedback on the writing process. And it's been adopted by Singapore. About 500,000 students are going to be on it by the end of August. They're putting their AI API engines in the back of textbooks to create that kind of feedback. So that's really interesting. I think the other piece that's also interesting is personalized learning. So being able to have learning that's personalized, that keeps the student within the zone of proximal development. In the past, what we did was we organized students by age group and 192 days. And now we're starting to see that students need personalization. They need personalization because they come with different levels of mental readiness and different levels of prior learning, and different backgrounds and different interests. And so having that personalized learning and keeping students in that zone of proximal development actually keeps the rigor interesting, which is part of the challenge. If it's too easy, students kind of tap out. If it's too hard, students kind of tap out. If it's interesting, there's an opportunity for that. So I think those are the two big places. But my advice to schools and to teachers is, before you get into thinking about AI, spend August thinking about, what are my principles around education? And based on those principles, go back to when you started teaching. Based on those principles, what were some things that I could not do in the past at scale? And start asking myself, are there digital tools that can help me to do that now? Which tools are they? How do I get them and bring them into my classroom?
That's brilliant. It's a great opportunity to to leverage the time to upskill, if you will, and save time. Right? You've alluded to a few aspects of the teaching process that will literally give themselves time back as well.
That's a critical piece. I when I deliver my keynotes, or even when I interact with people online, people say, "Oh, the education system's broken," and I say, "No, it's not broken.
Hmm.
It was highly effective based on the technology that we had in the past. We have new technology, and we now have a different digital transforming economy. So we're going to need to make some adjustments. In the past, my grade 4 math might have just been multiplication, just this. Today,
Right.
it's all of this, but it's the same time. So teachers are time poor, and any kind of opportunity for EdTech companies, AI companies to sell teachers back their time is absolutely critical. And from a teacher perspective, or a principal perspective, or superintendent perspective, really to look at what is going to deliver additional time to allow my teachers to get back to the things that they really want to do, which is connect with students and teach. I go, but if they're spending all of their time doing some of the grunt work, they can't do the type of work that's important. And time again, you ask teachers, that is the feedback. I do not have enough time to do what I know is the right thing to do.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I referenced the presentation I did with Kathy Hurley, another legend in EdTech like you. Kathy and I present at ERDI US to superintendents in industry, and I'm going to be sharing this in our next report, the Can-Am report in August. So people have to watch for that. And we did a global scan and just shared a lot of the resources that have been created and research, and just to give insight and paint a picture of what the possibilities are in leveraging the tools. And you need a walled garden around it for education. That's critical. It can't be super wide open, but you don't, people fear the unknown, and you don't know what you don't know. But we've been busy upskilling. I know the both of us have, and I'm fascinated by Literatu, and hope to see that make its way into North America from Australia. It's a great Australia or New Zealand.
They're in Australia, is where the home base is, but they have a pretty big footprint in Singapore and another big footprint in Korea.
That's awesome. So, events, any speaking engagements, professional learning you're doing over the summer? What are you up to? Hopefully, spending some quality time with your family and getting away a little bit.
Yeah, I have something coming up, and in Australia on the week of the 9th, 10th, and 11th. It's a closed session with leaders there and principals. Leaders for tomorrow, which is pretty interesting. It's
Cool.
Adriano De Prato is the person that's bringing me there, and I don't know if you know those guys from Game Changers. Brilliant leaders in education.
Awesome.
So we have something with him, and then I have a couple of events coming up actually through Speaker Spotlight in November, in January, and gosh, I would have to go through and name them all off. You kind of caught me in the spot.
Speaking of November, we hope that we can get you up to our EdTech Summit happening in Ottawa, in partnership with Ottawa U and the Ottawa Catholic School Board and Algonquin College, and we've got some big names that are going to be presenting. We've got someone that's out of this world, Daniel Sachs, who's the co-founder and CEO of the Canadian Space Mining Corporation.
That's awesome.
So you would be awesome on the back end to take us home with envisioning the future of EdTech as an edu-futurist. That I coined a phrase. I don't think anyone's ever called you that, have they?
No. I think you are absolutely the first. And gosh, if it sticks, I'm going to give you a publishing on that.
Yeah, well, at least a free signed autograph of your photo.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have a couple of books that I'm working on, and
nice.
Gosh, I've been working.
Well, that makes two of us. I'm writing mine. I'm committed to finishing mine. The Art of Networking in a Digital Age. I got the cover done, and my wife keeps bugging me as to when I'm going to finish. So
what I've done this summer, speaking of professional learning, is my son is 13, and I've hired him, and he's using AI tools. I said, use whatever AI tools you can. And he's going through all of my writings across all of the different spaces that I have. He's organizing those into categories, so which is pretty cool, because he has to read a lot of what I've written, but then he's also using AI tools, and he's doing a lot of the categorization, a lot of the organization of the content. Hopefully, I'll get him an opportunity to do the book cover.
Wow!
And so he's actually getting paid, and then he gets a percentage of my book and any of my keynotes that I do towards the book. So
that's fantastic.
He's a sole proprietorship.
Kudos to you for that. One other thing we're doing is a summer institute.
This is Robert Murd
EdTech Industry Bootcamp, launching the Business of EdTech 101 course.
And welcome to this special edition
that's
of MindShareTV
another
podcast
initiative,
because
we found that, and as you know,
for
the folks that go into EdTech, they might be
course,
former teachers or someone
session number one
industry.
on the history.
There's a lot of nuances and jargon
that's taking place
and unique sales cycles to understand the complexities of the industry
in Philadelphia.
What do you think of this concept?
Yeah, no, I think this is cool. But
a legend in that tech,
videos running
50 years, a former colleague of mine with Kevin O'Leary's learning company.
Robert in the video, and
Kathy Hurley, thank you for joining me.
The other video.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
But I think that's a great idea. I think it's super important for EdTech firms. I actually think it's quite brilliant to sit down and with leaders in education to think about, when they come up with a brilliant idea, think about, what is the roadmap or pathway in with that brilliant idea? I recently had a conversation with somebody putting together a course. So they're doing a whole course, and they were going to go out and sell this course. And I said, "Who are you selling it to?" And I said, "Well, I want to sell it to the schools." And I said, "Is that your audience?" And as we went through it, we realized, no, the audience is the parents. And so, so you have to really focus then on the parents. But if you're going to spend your time going through superintendents and that sort of stuff, you might go through a number of cycles that are relevant. So I think it's super important for EdTech companies. You and I have probably met a bunch of EdTech companies and said, yeah, we're going to do this, and it'll just be $200 a year per student. And, we know that that's not going to fly, right? That's not going to fly. If
one of the things
over $10, it better be mining in space.
That's right. Well, just to wrap up, we've infused the sales cycle image, and it's the sales cycle. Kevin O'Leary hated the education sales cycle. That was one of the reasons our learning company got sold to Mattel, because the sales cycles are not a hockey stick curve, as people call it. It fluctuates, and it's difficult when it's a publicly traded company to be fluctuating and not a hockey stick curve. So we're drilling down to those sales and marketing tactics and strategies that are essential for folks to understand. Because I've heard many of the EdTechs, complain, well, we got this teacher, but they don't understand the business and they fail. So we're going to help upskill educators and other folks who are passionate and want to make an impact and go into a new sector. We have a summer camp here, so the kids are having fun. So
that's awesome.
That's Steamwork Studio in our classroom. So part of the background noise, but it's all good. Any final thoughts to share, Dwayne Matthews, the futurist?
So, one of the big things I would say to any educators out there, any parents that are listening, I would say that enjoy July. Definitely start planning and thinking in August, because September is coming, and this September is going to be quietly, profoundly different. So I think every educator should assume that any child with a connected device, any student with a connected device, K to 12, post-secondary, they are operating with an AI co-pilot or a number of AI co-pilots, and they should plan instruction, thinking, everything around that. The idea of AI detector is we're probably past it. I had students map out about 10 different things that they could do to get past an AI detector and their teacher.
Oh, so cool.
It really is about what are the opportunities to expand. And then the last I would say is to think about a concept. I mentioned before that I was writing a book, and you talked about a term that you coined at the beginning. So we'll close with the term that I coined. The term is called stranded brilliance. So think about all the stranded brilliance that you might have in your class, that you might have because of the geography of your school, or that might be there globally. There are millions of stranded brilliant students, and think about how can we leverage AI and other digital tools to unlock stranded brilliance and have intentional social interaction. So that would be my thought. If I never jumped on here again, but that would definitely be the thought that I'd want to leave with you.
Well, with that, Dwayne, thank you so much. Never a dull moment in our conversations. Thank you for the inspiration,
Robert. It's always a pleasure. Being on here and having conversations with you. You have one of the things that I'm amazed with, Robert. Some people may or may not know, but you have such a long connection with EdTech in terms of what's on the cutting edge at the front, and then what that cutting edge has to get into. You have a deep array of insight. And I appreciate coming on here and having a
Thank you so much again. Dwayne Matthews, newly coined as the edu-futurist by me, and the innovation evangelist, future of education strategist, X-Prize advisor, and keynote speaker. My name is Robert Merdlanchi, the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare.learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.